Can I be a nerd for like 2 seconds?
Do it.
Sure,
Go.
okay.
Okay.
Go crazy.
So first and foremost, we've been eating very good in terms of anime, right? We have Dan the Dan. If you're not watching that, make some time, watch it. It comes out every Thursday on Netflix.
Action
Wednesday,
pack?
Thursday. Action and humor, right? It's a nice anime. You watch it, great stuff.
Actually, very good ratings.
Blue Lock comes out. I'm biased towards Blue Lock. If you like football, that's something for you to watch, right? And
Bleach 1,000 Year War.
Bleach 1,000 Year Blood War, that's been going on.
I'm watching it. I love it.
Okay.
Solo Leveling.
Yeah, Solo Leveling coming out as well. There's all of that, right? If you're into games, then some of you all would already know that we've had some pretty good highs and lows as far as gaming is concerned, right? We've had the Marine 2 that came out, which is set in the Warhammer universe. That game came out. It was an unexpected hit. Nobody thought it would be interesting.
Have anything to do with that?
Not a thing.
Okay.
Not a thing. But Games Workshop has been making moves to expand the product line of their IP. And they've been going into video games, they're looking into movies and shows and that kind of stuff. So they've been doing that. That has been a surprise hit. On the opposite side of that, we had the complete and utter crash and burn that was Concord. It's a game that Sony was kind of hyping up. They invested over $400 million in this thing. They acquired the studio that was producing it. They thought that it would be the next big thing, but they made a couple missteps. They made missteps that led to Trump being elected as prime minister, as president. Similar missteps were made with that game. The backlash was severe, and that was a complete and utter loss for Sony. So they're trying to recoup money right now. They're in a desperate spot with that, right? Second thing is for other persons within the gaming sphere, we had Dragon Age. Now, Dragon Age is Foundation RPG, like modern day Foundation RPG. A lot of what they did with Dragon Age and also games like Mass Effect and the one Fallout and so on, right? These games, they establish certain things in terms of mechanic and storytelling that a lot of modern games, they just cannibalize off, they just feed off of that. It inspired a lot of things, right? So Dragon Age 1 is phenomenal, has not been bested as far as an RPG is concerned, right? It's one of those games that allow you to make moral choices and it affects the outcome of the game and who you get to play with. And there's very few games that were able to do that and also to do it on that level. So as such, the Dragon Age IP and franchise has huge stature within the RPG gaming community, right? So we saw the first one, the second one came out and it didn't do that well. The third one came out and it did relatively okay. And so 10 years passed since then. And they announced that they were doing a new Dragon Age the Veilguard, and a lot of people anticipated it. It came out and it has been a sore disappointment, but it has polarized a lot of people. So you have on one end, persons who weren't happy with it because they thought that they were playing a therapy session instead of a video game. There was a lot of modern day type of language, the ones that you'd hear when you are self-affirming or you're affirming people, a sort of, I don't want to say woke language, but it's the shortcut. So I'll just say that. There's a lot of that involved in there. There's the whole pronouns thing, and people are like, this is breaking immersion, because when we go into a high fantasy game, there's certain expectations about how the fantasy setting is set, and we're not expecting to hear modern day issues and dialogue within it. Is breaking immersion. The other thing is that the actual gameplay itself was far different from what the franchise established. They had a very deep and immersive sort of gameplay, right, that demanded your attention and focus when you play. Now it's just became a simple hack and slash. So whereas people were expecting gourmet, they got Chinese takeout. And so it's polarizing now because there's a lot of people who, on one hand, they're like, hey, I like this sort of stuff. I like the representation, I like the dialogue, I like this, and you all are just being bad people. And so we have this split that's going on right now. And last but not least, sorry for all the bad news, but this one is very, very important. Super, super important. A couple months ago, there was a game that was released called Palworld. It's a Monster Tamer open world survival game. Now, we haven't seen these sorts of genres blended together. We've seen RPG and Monster Tamer like Pokemon. That's the main one people know. And there's open world games like Skyrim and so on. We know that. And survival games like Fallout and those kind of stuff. We know of these things, right? But Palworld was developed by an indie company, and it was humorously dubbed Pokemon with guns. So it was like an adult interpretation of Pokemon, and it garnered a lot of waves because, let's be real, a lot of Pokemon gamers are our age now. We've grown up, right? So a game that has a more mature feel is like Pokemon with more mature. It resonated a lot with people, right? Especially since the fact that Nintendo has become exceedingly lazy with their Pokemon games, and people have been complaining, but Nintendo is like, we have monopoly on this. We don't really care about your feelings, blah, 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 blah. They've been by and large ignored until they made over $1 billion. I think roughly around that they made with that game. And then Nintendo took them seriously. Nintendo took them to court, was attempting to take them to court, saying that they infringed on their copyrights. Now, hear this thing. They put out a game that was a template, like in the early 2020s, right? And based on what they've learned on that game, they constructed Palworld, okay? Around that time, Pokemon had a game called Legends Arceus that had like you running around in a 3D space, unlike the little Pikachu thing. You're actually running around in a 3D space catching Pokemon. They all run on the same thing, right? Okay. Nintendo goes, files a patent in 2024. Palworld came out in 2023. They file a patent for a very specific mechanic that is the fundamental of the gameplay. The wording is something like they file a patent for using a object to fling at a creature to capture it within a 3D space to use as part of your team ongoing in the game. Very specific language. The problem is that is a mechanic, and it's also a general mechanic that is used within a genre. That's like saying Street Fighter patent jumping in a fighting game. That's essentially that. Or Mario patent double jumping. What does that say for the industry now? Now you are limiting creators in what they can do with the games that they're developing and how it is that they can use them.
They will hold on to the monopoly.
Right. So they're filing this court case in Japan. On one hand, people are like, this is problematic because Nintendo has never lost a court case on home territory. On the other hand, they're like, this is some shady stuff. It's not good for the industry. You're going to be limiting what creators can actually do. And because they know they're in the wrong, they charge them $60,000 US. That's what they're charging them. Because as the lawyer said, they're trying to set a precedent. So people are saying like, the legal people and them, they're like, listen, the best thing for them to do is to go to court against Nintendo. Nintendo is being a bully at this point. Take them to court, Nintendo will lose because they don't have sufficient ground. You cannot see somebody do something, file a patent, and then retroactively sue them.
Because it's like going back in time to sue them for something that they just created.
Exactly.
Like that,
right? If Doom had filed a patent on first-person shooters, then we wouldn't have James Bond, GoldenEye. We would never have had that. You understand? So this is the current mess right now. I think that I know it's going to be super expensive for Palwell, which is a tiny company that just started up, to go up against a mega giant. But they need to go to court. If they settle, it set precedent for other nonsense to happen moving forward, and we don't benefit from that.
Good job.
So that's just the current
Well, for me,
news with that.